Thanks, everybody, for joining us once again. We are back after what seems like forever. It's been basically a month, I think, since the last time we streamed. So thank you for tuning in and welcome back. I, as always, am your host, Dan Gaston, better known on Twitter as @MadSciDM. And we are here to play some Trauma and Shenanigans. I mean, Dungeons and Dragons. So, let's go around and say hi to everyone and have them refresh our failing memories on who they are playing. So why don't we start first and foremost with Rachel.
Oh wait, her Dragonborn cleric who's torn between all of her decisions. Right, what is wrong?
It wouldn't be a good game of D&D if we weren't in the midst of moral quandaries. That's why it's Trauma and Shenanigans. Kyle, how about you?
Playing Nachi. Doesn't have any qualms at all with killing people who get in his way.
Good, excellent. Well, we need some of that too. Max.
I'm playing Farnak, basically Antithesis of Oiwe, and he's a surly old orc blood who is ready to choose action over pondering.
Excellent. And Matt.
Hi, I'm playing Zyrus Halffinger. Zyrus is kind of the neutral in the bunch. He's the rogue and enjoys just trying to figure out how the best way to make money.
Sounds good. There's always lots of profit in cities. And last but not least, Jeff.
I'm playing Will Be Hilltopple, the halfling druid who is just out to be everybody's friend and become overwhelmed in large cities, most likely.
Fair enough. All right. So when we last left off, you had made it to the city of Sorel. This is the biggest city that at least most of you have ever really been in or spent any significant time in. Pretty, far south from your home on the High Marches, and not terribly far from Surat, which is your ultimate destination on this journey south. And you've done a few things. You've set up shop in a inn, and you have explored the town a little bit, seen the sights, and that it has far more to offer in terms of the market and goods and the variety of people that you see compared to anywhere that you have been. The largest temple that you have seen, which Oyawe has made good use of in their library, researching alchemy and various other topics. And you have witnessed some of the unrest that you have heard of, rumors trickling north over the last couple of months, notably another city, Menua, which has fallen in basically a revolutionary uprising, throwing off the shackles of its king and declaring itself as a republic. And no one here in Sorel apparently wants to talk about it, to the point where you have been warned not to discuss it openly because people who say too much end up in trouble. But you have witnessed clashes and aggression between the common folk and the merchant nobility of the city. So, when we left off, and I may need some reminders and help from you guys because it has been a while, but I think that I have a pretty good handle on where we are. Daichi and Wilby were still kind of wandering around, just exploring around the Grand Bazaar, sort of this, I guess it's not really called the Grand Bazaar, but the Grand Square, rather, where there are many stalls of various kinds, mostly food, jewelry, clothing, that sort of thing, and some nearby streets that cater to some specificities, so weapons and armor smithing and, various things like that. Oyawe was, as usual, nose deep in a book, doing research. And Zyrus and Farnak had recovered, quote unquote, as Zyrus found a note on one of the merchant nobility that had seemed to indicate some sort of code about a clandestine meeting at a inn on the riverside, and they were talking about going to check that out, and had, were informing their companions of where they've booked themselves in at the inn and all of that as well. Does that sound about right, everybody?
I believe we'd already met up and were currently with the other two. Oyoe was the only one who wasn't with us.
Yeah,
What I remember too.
Yep, you guys had all met back up, and then Oyawe sort of split off again, going back into the temple to engage in research after your sort of initial meetings and that sort of thing, and some shopping and what have you. So, with that, I think why don't we start outside with sort of the larger group, since we know Oyawe right now is sort of doing research. So, what are you guys doing?
Should we tell them about the note, Cyrus?
I think this is a tricky one for me, Farnay, because everybody, especially Oyoe, is going to end up asking, how did I end up coming across this? And also, we have no idea what this is yet, unless we show up at the meeting. So I am hesitant.
I hear
The
them
other thing I'm
talking.
worried about is they're going to notice that note is gone, whoever you took it from.
Possibly not. As long as we don't act suspicious, I don't think we will end up having a problem. At some point, I'm going to start cluing both Daichi and Wilby in what's kind of sort of going on without mentioning the note as much. So,
But we should get there earlier than later. It would look less suspicious if we're already there when the meeting begins, but just regular patrons. I'm not even going to wear my armor.
I think that would be a wise choice. Also, too, with the weapon-wise, I would say we come in carrying something not as conspicuous. Probably daggers, something like that.
If you wish to fill them in, then you should do that now.
Okay. All right. Wilby, Daichi. All right. Farnak and I have come across this note. It mentions the fact that in a particular place that is close by here, and we are planning on making this meeting, but we're not 100% sure what's going to go on. It doesn't look like it's on the up and up, but we're kind of seeing how we can play this. We may end up making it so we can make a little bit of money out of this. Barnick, did I forget anything?
So, why does this matter to us?
Yes, that's what
Money,
I
my
wonder.
man. Money.
We already know how the merchant lords act towards the common folk, and I believe it would be good to get a little, how would you say, a preview of what we're in for Sorel. If this is a smaller scale, we should see what we may run into there.
Makes sense to me. I got a couple of friends that might want to know too.
Do you know what this meeting is about? Any idea?
I literally don't know for sure. So, hey, Dan, side note, I've misplaced my actual notes.
That's okay. I mean, you really don't know. The note really just indicated it was
a meeting, the time, and the place.
It was a location. There was a reference to blue water. There was a note that said Riverside Inn and a time, and that was really it.
And all I'm going to explain will be, I'm just nosy. I want to figure out what's going on. This could be a possibility of being money to be made.
Well, if you want, I could. If it's in an inn, I could go in very unobtrusively. Nobody would see me.
That would be most helpful.
A literal fly on the wall.
Probably a gecko, but yes.
Oh, that would be wonderful. As long as they don't have anything that would kind of negate your magic, that would be better.
Yes, we
That
do have
is
to be
true.
concerned if this is in a back room. If this is something that won't be out in the open, at the very worst, we get to have a delightful bread bowl of something interesting in a new restaurant for the night.
Oh, yes.
This is always a good thing.
Red Bulls.
As a side whisper to Cyrus, you must appeal to the stomach and then the mind.
Thank you.
Oh,
Sometimes I forget this.
all right. So your plan is to go to the inn and to engage in some reconnaissance, essentially.
Yeah, we're gonna grab a meal, just kind of sit back, drink a little bit, kind of slowly, and check out and see what happens. I'm mainly looking for the merchant that I managed to snag the note of.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Okay. So while you guys go there and get set up, we'll cut over to Oyawe. So Oyawe is in the library, still researching. The librarian, Wilfred Greenleaf, who was sort of a small halfling cleric with the holy symbol of Saint Luga, one of the knowledge saints and patrons, comes on over towards you. Yes, Sister Oyawe, there is
Yes?
someone here who wishes to speak with you.
Sure, absolutely. I'll pose the book that I'm currently at, and I'm assuming there's nobody with him, and I'm going to follow him.
Yeah. There's no one with him. He's like, I've arranged a room that can have a conversation in.
Who exactly is it that you don't mind me asking?
This is Ulfric, Raven's Cloak. He's one of the Knights of Tyr.
Oh, okay. How do you spell that again?
Ulfric, Ulfric.
L-F. Knights of Tyr. And then I will say, okay, just sorry, and I'll move following.
Yeah, and so he leads you around and opens up a door into one of the rooms. And you can see that there is a tall human male, familiar. He is one of the knights that was standing out on the steps of the temple where you were earlier, sort of surveying the crowd. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark hair, kind of long, held back with a bit of a leather band, in full plate. He's got a blue cloak, and the holy symbol of Tyr is impressed on the breastplate, on his chest. He's got his sword is belted still at his side, and he's just standing in this small room and just says, yes, sister. Thank you for coming. Please. And he gestures where there is sort of a small table with a chilled pitcher of, presumably wine of some sort, and two goblets, which he moves over, pours one for himself, pours a second one, and sort of, please help yourself.
Oh, thank you. Go to sit and I guess I pour myself a drink. What can I help you with?
You have spent some time in the north. That's correct?
Yes, that is where our group resides.
Yes, and have only recently traveled south.
Yes, this is our first entire guild's first trek far.
Yes.
Then I could
Tell me, what did you think of all that you saw on your journey south?
I think there's a lot of issues. And because of said issues, there's a lot of confusion and more events happening that are causing trouble.
You've heard of what happened in Menua, yes?
Yes.
And you know what saint I follow, what tier stands for.
And we talked about this before, right, Dan? It was like judgment and helping out the.
Yep, justice, standing up for, those who can't defend themselves, defending the weak, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. Okay. That's what I thought, and I know I wrote. Yes, I did. Yep, I wrote that down, but I just wanted to make sure I talked about it earlier. Yes, I know well what here stands for, and we're all hoping to.
I suspected that I saw and felt a great deal of turmoil and conflict within you when you witnessed what happened in the market today. I guess that incident did not sit well with you.
Don't think Oyama was there for the incident.
I think she was. It was. Yeah, it was when the whole group gathered after going in the temple initially and then coming back out.
Okay. I unfortunately cannot remember that. Yes, it was settling.
To say the least.
No. Yeah, it was cautious.
Indeed. It was most unfortunate. The Knights of Tyr cannot and have not stood by for these sorts of atrocities. We'll speak again. I think I may have a request of you, but I don't want to take up more of your time. I know that you are engaged in research and helping your friends, but perhaps we can speak again later.
Absolutely. If you need to reach me, I believe, if I remember correctly, we're staying at the Field of Rose. But I'll probably be here for a bit longer with my research. But yeah, absolutely. If you ever have need with me, feel free to ask any. I do have one task that takes up my priority, and I plan to leave as soon as possible tomorrow to take care of it. But I'm always willing to help as much as I can here.
Of course.
Sure.
am here in the barracks with the other knights. So if you're ever looking, just ask and someone will direct you.
Okay.
And he sort of then just, kind of brushes his way out, and sort of, you can see him as he leaves, he kind of pats the librarian on the shoulder and whispers something, and then kind of exits out a stairwell into the main part of the temple.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna get up and go back over to Brother Wilfred and thank him for letting me know that someone actually was looking for me and such.
Of course, sister, of course. If I can be of any further assistance at any time, just ask.
Thank you so much. There might be a few more things I'd like to look at in the library, if that's okay. I don't know if you.
Of course. If I am not here, you are still welcome to peruse the library as you wish.
Thank you. Very clearly excited at the fact that I can go into the library whenever I want.
That's how we always get to rid.
All right. So, does Oyalwe have anything in particular that she wants to research in the library?
Before the meeting, had I been able to completely read / skim memorize the alchemy book that I've been looking at?
Yep, you've got a pretty good handle on it. Yep.
Okay. I actually would like to look up some information on the. Oh gosh, I haven't. What is it? The Adamantine Circle?
Okay.
Any information on them, and the tower and such?
Okay. So I think, Wilfred sort of explained their cataloging system. You're, a part of the temple, so you're pretty familiar, I would think, with how it works. So you have, a good idea of where to look. There would be kind of two possible sections, really, to focus on. One would be the history section. And so, you would find kind of general histories and things people have written about history in general, but you could find some specific things. And the other would be that there is, although it's not their main purview, there would be a section, sort of like the Arcana section, as it were, with an area with, metaphysical treaties on like the nature of magic and things like that, and that may also contain information. So it just depends on kind of the exactly what you're looking for.
I think I'm looking to get an idea of. Well, I'm sure I'm not going to be able to miss a tower, but possibly the easiest way to gain access. Names of important mages there. Probably trying to get an idea of what we're going to be dealing with when we reach Surat.
Right. Okay. So the histories section would be the best place. Even though, even looking for sort of more recent things, that would be where they would tend to put it. So, and about how long are you willing to spend kind of like researching through books?
Has the sun set yet?
The sun is setting. Yeah, it's kind of dusk.
Right. I'll just spend like another hour, and then I'll take my leave.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and give me a intelligence check? History, if you have it, could come into play here as well. Sort of your background in doing, readings of historical research.
I do have history. Yeah.
There you go.
Because my intelligence is 0.
Well, plus 0.
You know what I mean, my modifier.
I did, yeah.
Oh, that sucks. Oh my god. Was that 11? It's an 11.
Okay. So the information that you're going to find sort of over the course of the hour, the bare, bones structure of everything would be that, you know that the adamantine circle is old. It claims historical roots all the way back to the Asunian Empire. Whether that's true or not, most organizations do that, right? It's like us claiming that things go back to ancient Rome or something. It's the same idea of age giving legitimacy. So they make that claim. Whether it's true or not, who knows? There certainly have been very active over the last couple of 100 years, but they were once based in Perception. That was their city. Perception was a whole magical city of like floating islands over the bay, over Perception Bay, with many towers and estates. And there was some big accident like 100 years ago during one of the last conflicts with the Eternal Empire, and like right around the time of the Resurgence, where the magic failed and all those islands went crashing into the bay, and the magical energies that were unleashed turned Perception Bay into the smoking sea and created the Blasted Lands, right? So that's relatively well known, at least the broad strokes among a lot of people. And then they relocated to Sorel, which was at that point starting its boom. It was already a fairly wealthy city, but it was still in that transition stage between being a pirate haven and being this like very mercantile city, right? It kind of started out like Mos Eisley, and now it's like Super Venice / Rome, right? It was a hive of scum of villainy, and now it still is, but they're wealthier and have the law on their side, basically. So the Adamantine Circle relocated there because of the access, presumably to money, and built the Adamantine Tower, which is on the opposite side of the river from the main city of Sorel. It's on the western bank, whereas most of the city is on the eastern bank. The tower, there are some sketches that you find of it and some descriptions. It's like 1,000 feet high. It is the tallest building that has been ever constructed in the current age, at least according to historians in this part of the world. Who knows what may or may not exist elsewhere. And it does have like a main access, which is like the grand lobby, which is where the public goes. That would all be the kind of information that's easily available to you. And you know that the Adamantine Circle, the mages, do a lot of work basically building stuff and doing magic for a profit. So they build magical items and artifacts of various kinds and sort of like export them around, particularly within the city, and sort of commissioned by the merchant lords.
Okay. Because I think I was the one looking at it. The note that was left behind, seal on it.
Mm-hmm.
Can I show? Is there anywhere in the books, probably should have asked this first, that would maybe give away whose seal it was? Actually, give me a name.
You didn't find any, so you kind of just found a lot of general histories. You did find some information on like previous, archons, so like the archon before the current archon, and the archmages that sort of form the council underneath him that run the Adamantine Circle. But none of it was current. It was all sort of historical stuff. Although some of those wizards could still be alive. But the most recent you found were sort of 50 years ago.
All right. Then, since I didn't find it, I would actually like to ask Brother Wilfred if he has any idea as to whose seal it might be, or someone who might be able to tell me.
All right. So let's see what. Well, he just rolled a nat 20 on his intelligence check. Womp womp womp. And so tell me, how you're asking him, how you show it, that sort of thing.
Yes, of course. After I finish putting away my books and everything, I will go to him and I will take the note and shoot. Yeah, you know what? I'll just fold it up and say, Brother Wilfred, sorry to bother you, but before I leave, I just had another question. If possible, do you know who in the Adamantine Circle this seal belongs to? I'm trying to find this person.
And so, you hold up the bit of paper, and he's got, some eyeglasses hanging off a chain around his neck that he, pops up. Oh, let me see here. Yes. And his eyes just go quite wide, and he kind of backs away and, pushes the note back into your hand and just says, oh, the symbol of the hawk. That is the symbol. It's more of a station, really, a title, typically given to the Archmage of the Council, with the title of High Alchemist.
Okay.
The current High Alchemist, well, and he kind of pitches his voice low, they call him the Mad Mage of Aracor. If there is something secretive and risky to be delved into, he has delved into it. Sometimes to the detriment of himself, his assistants.
Well then.
If you came by this and he took something that he considers dangerous, I suspect it is dangerous indeed, although it may still be dangerous in his hands.
Oh, okay. That's great.
Although he is I shall say, while his reputation precedes him, he is not known to be unsavory. From what I have heard, he means well. He is incredibly intelligent. Some say more intelligent than the Archon. But his intelligence is not tempered by prudence.
Oh. And that's he's just known as the Mad Mage of Aracor. He doesn't have.
I'm sure he has a name. Most just refer to him these days by his title of High Alchemist. Most do not call him the Mad Mage within earshot.
Yeah. Sounds like a very smart idea not to call him that.
I have heard that his name, at least his first name, is Ivor.
Ivor.
It's Ivar.
Okay.
Other than that, I do not know more about him. He is a bit of a mystery, as it were.
Okay. Well, it's of the utmost importance that I actually meet up with him, so I really appreciate the fact that you gave me this information. Thank you so much, Mr. Wilford.
You're quite welcome. All right, so now back at the Riverside Inn. So, or the approach to the Riverside Inn. You have made your way towards the Riverside District. So you're headed basically towards the docks and the wharves. It gets kind of seedier and more run down as you head into that direction. You know, lots of warehouses, rooming houses that cater to sailors. You get the gist. The interesting, as the sun has gone down, as dusk has set, all along the streets, even in this quarter, you start to see, instead of lamplight, which you've seen in some of the major towns that you've come down to, you know, the lamplighters go out and kind of light some lamps, or torches, which would be more common even further north. You just see these floating lights that start to appear, giving this like pale yellow glow, floating all through the city. And just gently kind of drifting in the air as they illuminate. And when you look at them, you can tell that they actually appear to be made of glass, you know, as they kind of illuminate the whole city. And they just came on by themselves. So yeah, it gets progressively seedier as you go towards the dock. You know, these lights kind of start to thin out. They're sort of more concentrated in like the ritzier, you know, more well-traveled areas. And then as you go towards the docks, you know, there's fewer of them, so you get more shadows, you know, that sort of thing. Looking around, it looks like some of them may have been deliberately removed to like purposely create areas of shadow at, you know, alley mouths and that sort of thing. And then you can see your destination sort of near the, you know, halfway down the block, you know, as you kind of enter the waterfront proper. And so the Riverside Inn sits on a wharf. So directly across it, basically the street out front is, you know, walking on wooden wharfway. And across the street directly from it is the river. So it faces out onto the river. There's a small jetty with like a few boats tied up to it. There's a noticeable lean to the building. It's tilted to the side, and kind of the corner of the rooftop kind of touches the building beside it. The building beside it's made of stone. The Riverside Inn is made of wood. And it just has a sign hanging out front with sort of a painted river and a mug sort of overspilling with beer that kind of splashes down into the river out front. And one of these globes of light kind of hangs above it, illuminating the sign. And you can hear every once in a while the door opens as someone exits or enters the building. You know, laughter, light kind of all comes out into the street, and then the door closes again. And it's quiet.
Cyrus, do we know what time this meeting is supposed to be?
Yes, we do.
10 bells.
10 bells. So that, let's see, what is, let's see, daylight. Probably around 8 bells now.
It's probably around 8 bells now. So in like 2 hours.
All right. So about 2 hours from now.
That's plenty of time to get in, get ourselves established, have a drink, get some food. I saw these interesting looking, something else other than a bread bowl. It's an egg the size of my fist, but wrapped in a ground meat. And it just looked delicious, and I wish to try that. That or the cut of meat that was wrapped in a flaky pastry.
Okay.
That all sounds quite good, yes.
No, this place doesn't look like it will have such things.
But it may have
No,
something
I
else.
bread
If
bowl.
it's this close to the river, we could have some type of food from the river.
Like local delicacies, yes.
Yes. Let's check it out.
While they're talking, Tachi is looking around to make sure that they're not being followed.
All right. So yeah, you're scanning around, looking. Any particular places you're looking? You know, there's like alley mouths that are darkened. There's, you know, rooftops.
I mean, he's using his dark vision to look down those darkened alleyways to make sure that there's no seedy figures trying to follow him, because him and Wilby have already had that happen to him once.
All
That's
right.
true.
Give me a perception check.
19.
19. All right, so you're looking around. You definitely see people like occasionally like lounging sort of casually, right? Like the leaning up against a brick or a wall in an alley with their arms folded, kind of surveying the crowd. But you don't get the impression that they're specifically watching you. They look like they're kind of just surveying for, like a likely target. So you haven't noticed anybody following you, and the shady people you see seem to be, you actually see them look at you guys, take kind of a look up and down, and think better of it.
Gotcha tips his hat every little occasion.
I am walking with my branch and kind of exaggerating my limp a little bit.
Yeah, but what Daichi notices, they kind of look at him and their eyes go down and see like the big pistol butt of a gun
Yeah.
and like the rapier and stuff. And though like even people have kind of left some of their other more obvious weaponry, not with them. And people should remind me what they have taken and what they're wearing for armor.
Well, Dashi has everything that he would normally have.
Okay. So, but he sold his rifle, right? So he's just got his pistol.
Yeah, he's just got the pistol, the little pistol, his rapier, and a dagger.
Okay.
All right, I've got my leather armor. I'm got my hand crossbow stowed.
Yeah.
But I've got a couple of daggers in my boot that are easy to get to.
Okay. Perfect. Wilby looks harmless.
Yeah.
Like Wilby actually looks like a target. Like people are kind of looking, and you see them look at Wilby, and then look, and they like definitely notice your gear, and then Zyrus, with the leather armor, like it's obvious he looks like a rogue.
And I've just got my ratty old leather armor. The cloak is set to look like just your standard traveling cloak, though the shield is kind of slung over top of it, his old dented shield. He wants to look like an old seasoned war veteran. He doesn't want to look like he's where he actually is, but he does want it to look like a warrior. He's got his head shaved bald, his bushy beard.
Yeah, so look like an old mercenary, and you don't fuck with old mercenaries because
you don't live long as a mercenary.
Exactly. If you're an old mercenary, you know what you're doing. Okay, good.
He's got his flail stowed in the bag of holding.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
I do have the silvered dagger I bought.
Yes.
Kind of strapped on my back, but hidden.
Okay. Yeah. Somewhere like kind of under your cloak where you could like reach up and behind you and pull it out. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Excellent. All right. So you've got a lay of the land. There's definitely like shady people around looking for targets. The area is kind of dilapidated and seedy, and there is the Riverside Inn.
We have to remember to ask for names.
Perhaps
And
have
they-
some fried fish here.
When I first come in, Dan, I'm just going to kind of scan the place and try to find us a booth where we can kind of watch the door but not be seen as well.
Okay.
Are there tables or booths or both?
Yeah, so yeah, you guys push open the door and come in, and basically, the light kind of floods out. You notice that there were some windows on the front, but they have been sort of partially boarded over, and you can't see any glass in them. So there wasn't. Yeah, so there was only like a little bit of light filtering out from in and around and between the boards. But when you open the door, it's clearly pretty brightly lit inside. There's a stone hearth on one wall opposite the bar area that has a fire going to take off the winter chill. Even this, you're pretty far south, but there's, a bit of a winter chill, the damp off of the river. The fire, you can smell the wood smoke. It's not particularly well ventilated, so some of that, damp kind of wood burning smoke kind of backs into the common room a little bit. Mixes with the smell of, pipe smoke, wet clothing, oiled leather, oiled steel, that all kind of mixes together, along with the pungent aroma of what has to be a fish stew, some frying fish in the back, and the smell of fresh baked bread. But there is, it's fairly loud, and you look around, and yes, there is tables, mostly tables, but there are some booths kind of around the back wall and sort of the front and around in some of the corner. So as you're surveying around for a good spot, why don't you give me a investigation check?
All right. Eight.
Okay. So you can see there's a number of unoccupied tables at the front. There is an unoccupied booth along the back. It does offer, line of sight with the door. It's kind of in the middle. And so, it's going to be close to a lot of the tables that are in the very middle. And kind of that's about it.
Okay. Farnak, what do you think? Which one should we take?
Which one do you think that they would be the ones most likely to sit at? We don't want to take the table that they would be at, though we would want a good view of that one. Don't want to look like we are trying to have a secret clandestine meeting.
Most likely, if they're going to have a meeting like this, it's going to be moved towards the back. I was wanting to get a view of the door as they came in.
I believe a table would offer more of a round the room instead of being next to a wall, though it would protect our backs.
Yes.
Strategically, wherever it is, you should just be able to keep an eye on the door, and we'll pull up some chairs. We want to look like we belong here.
Yeah,
Sure,
it's about half
like
full.
We don't belong here.
I would say the inn's about half full. You look around, there's a mix of people. There are some people who look sort of like grizzled, mercenary, roguish types. There's some people who seem to be like fishermen. There's people who seem to be sailors. So it's a fairly mixed crowd.
As much as I miss her, we do stand out a lot less without our 7-foot-tall dragonborn.
That is true. Also, with four of us, we can each watch each other's backs. So that basically wherever we sit, I say we pick one of the ones up close, kind of to the front.
I just want to point out, I would have left a note. I believe her name was Hannah at the Gilded Rose.
Yep.
I started with an H. Nope. Heather? Something.
Miriam Bendard?
Okay.
Miriam.
Miriam, sorry. I'm thinking of a different barmaid. I'm not good at this. So I would have left a note for Oyawe saying, on to get into trouble, and with the name of the bar written backwards.
Okay.
Gonna strangle them.
All right.
Meanwhile, he's plotting her death. Gotcha goes right for the bar.
Okay. There's a woman, middle-aged, hair has gone gray. It's got a little bit of dark still left in it. Lean, kind of tall. She's got a scar across her throat and a puckered scar sort of on her cheek. When she smiles, she's missing, about half of her teeth. And she just says, "What can I get you, darling?"
No.
Now you just kind of double shot whatever is the strongest you got.
All right. That'll be 1 gold piece.
Do I have money?
Jeez Louise. A little steep, isn't it?
Yeah, I have money. Okay. 2 gold.
Touchy, you keep it up like this, you won't have any money.
So you put down the 2 gold. She pulls out 2 clay shot glasses down and pulls out a clay jug that she uncorks. splashes this dark brownish liquor into, and then slides them both in your direction.
Picks one up, slams it back.
All right. So you slam it back, and it burns the whole way down. It does actually taste pretty good. It's got a faint hint of like caramel kind of underlying it, along with this like really, really spicy, you're not sure what it is. It's nothing you've tasted before. But basically, as a player, imagine this really like peppery heat in it. So not just like the heat of liquor like whiskey, but this real peppery, almost like cinnamon schnapps or something, but pepper. And potent, way more potent than schnapps.
Oh boy.
Is it worse than one of Meepo's Dragon's Breaths or better?
It's certainly more potent.
As I watch Daichi order this and drink it, I'm going to cast Detect Poison. Just around.
Make sure.
All right, so here's the thing. It doesn't illuminate like poison because it's like not literally poisoned, but it's super potent alcohol. So
Right.
so in a way,
it is a poison.
It sort of does. Yeah. But like you can sort of just tell that it's basically just that it's like 80 proof or whatever.
I actually also wanted to just kind of glance around the whole bar and see if I see anything
Okay.
funny in the bar with the Detect Poison.
So remind me what the range of that is.
Let's see. I have it here. 30 feet.
Okay. So, I mean, you'll actually be able to see, probably like half of the room or so, surveying around. And you do sort of see, like, you look by a couple of people and you can see, almost like X-ray vision, like under their cloak, like little vial-sized things that, like, illuminate.
Okay, I'm just going to make a note of what people have those, and if they get up and go somewhere suspiciously, I might make note of that.
Probably like 6 people scattered through that half of the room that have at least one vial. Some have 2 or 3.
Right. Does Iris have any?
Negative.
Just thought I'd check.
It's worth checking. The rogue might.
All you have to do is ask. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to ahead and order an ale and a loaf of bread.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll get an ale as well.
Yeah, and so she kind of looks you guys over and says, yeah, that'll be 2 copper, 1 copper.
I'll throw her a silver piece.
She takes it and kind of rubs it, bites it, and goes, obliged, but I'm not providing any extra service, if you know what I mean.
That's okay. Thanks.
I left those days behind me.
As she walks off, I'm like...
And then they come back. They plop down like a loaf of bread, still like warm. It was probably baked, just a few hours ago. Nothing with it. And then she puts down some like wooden tankards that have what looks like a thin, kind of watery ale in it. It doesn't have a particularly robust head.
Wasn't expecting anything. All right. Yeah. I'm just going to kind of slowly sip on this thing for a little bit and kind of tear into the bread.
It's like it's like Natty Light, it's it's piss water. The bread, though, on the other hand, is actually pretty good.
When she comes back through, I'm going to ask her if they've got any jam or anything like that.
Oh, you need something sweet, do you?
Yeah.
All right. Another one of those silvers, and I'll bring you out a taster's selection.
Thank you.
She goes back to the kitchen and comes back sort of with, like a tray that's got a bunch of stoneware dishes on it. And when you like open them up and investigate, there's like a couple of kinds of jam, sort of strawberry, blueberry, raspberry in small amounts. There's a little bit of like a heavy cream, and there's a little bit of butter.
Cool. All right. I kind of show everybody and all right, here we go. So we'll go from there.
Sounds
It's
good.
going to be a long 2 hours.
Anyways, I'm going to eat a few bit more of this bread, though.
All right. So, kind of over that 2 hours while you're waiting, sort of what do you guys want to do? Various foods that if you want food, that sort of thing. And otherwise just what you do and kind of prepare, just paint me a picture of what you guys are doing.
Yeah. I'm going to get some of the fish stew and then just sit back and kind of watch the flow of people and just get a feel for how this place operates.
I'm pulling up my cards and starting up a poker game with copper pieces on the table. I want it to look like we've been here just doing our own thing by sitting here and doing our own thing.
Okay.
I'll join in and I'll join in on the poker game.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So everyone, say if you're getting food and drinks, that sort of thing, subtract off 2 silver from your inventory. That'll cover you with pretty much as much watery, crappy beer as you could want, and as much food, multiple loaves of bread, fish stew. The fish stew does come in a bread bowl.
Nice.
There we go.
And it's actually pretty good. So the food is pretty rich and savory. The beer is cheap swill.
Nice.
We can tell where they make their money from.
Okay.
Yeah. So why don't you guys, as you're kind of playing cards, keeping an eye out, making it look like you're, just keeping playing, looking natural. Why don't you guys give me all performance checks?
So Dachi is at the bar. He's
Okay.
staying away from the card. He's just sitting there like a dark brooding cowboy, sipping at his whiskey,
All right.
and occasionally glancing over his shoulder at the door just to keep an eye out.
I
Are
got
we
a
doing
third.
icon rolls tonight?
Oh, yes. Good idea. Thank you for reminding. Have to keep remembering that and get reminded earlier when I forget. So, yes, go ahead and roll those to see if you have any available. Do you?
Nope.
That would be no.
I don't remember what my icon rolls are.
Nope. So Cyrus's performance was 13, you said?
13.
Okay, I got a 18.
Okay.
I got 16.
Okay. Sounds good.
What? Yeah, I was gonna say what's Daichi, but he's not with us.
All right. And Oyawe, did you have any positives on your icon rolls?
Well, it's with the Dragon Empress, so it's conflicted, but
Right.
I've got a 5
Okay.
for both Dragon Empress, so.
Okay, good. And Daichi, over the 2 hours, how many of those whiskeys do you plan on drinking?
Oh no! First one, he shot that down. The second one, he's making it look like he's been drinking it for a while,
Okay.
but he had.
Okay, excellent. All right. So, so you guys keep watch. And, right before 10 bells, you see Zyrus, you recognize him, the merchant that you took the note off of.
Right.
So he's the person that you would presumably recognize. You see him come in the door, kind of look around, scanning the room, and then go to a table in the back corner.
Okay. All right. I kind of nudge Farnek and kind of, as the guy walks through, kind of lean my head towards him so he kind of knows what's going on, and to kind of keep a better eye on him.
You let me know, and if I need to start a distraction, I'm going to accuse Wilby of cheating and possibly punch him.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Over the next, couple of minutes, you see two other merchants, relatively well dressed. They actually kind of stand out a little bit in the crowd. Come in, also make their way towards the back table. One man and one woman. So the original merchant who came in, he was kind of like overweight, richly dressed, lots of jewelry on, sort of oily, slicked back hair. That's the one that Zyrus recognized. The other male who comes in is kind of tall, lean, very pale-skinned, blonde hair, pretty sort of, patrician features, hawk-like nose, very blue eyes, also like richly dressed, kind of flashy, lots of jewelry, comes in. And the third merchant who came in is actually a woman with dark hair. She's middle-aged or so, a little bit of gray just at the temples, also fairly richly attired, and jewelry, and they all go to that back corner. That table is kind of separated a little bit. It was occupied when the first man came in, and he basically just came in, slapped something down on the table, stood and waited. Someone scooped it. You couldn't really quite see what it was, and then they left. And some of the tables that are nearby are occupied, but not all of them.
If Josh is going to look over, see the really rich people, does he see them any weapons on them?
So you're looking, you don't see any obvious, like there's no sword, scabbarded swords or anything.
Okay.
In behind the last one to come in, the woman, sort of just like a bit after she comes in, a huge figure comes in through the door, like has to duck in under the door frame, stands up and has a pretty like fierce-like build, sort of those really broad shoulders and the arms that are like just a bit too long. But he's not as lean. So like the fierce tend to be like quite leanly muscled. He's fairly robust. So he is just all around big. Head is shaven except for like a crest, like basically like a mohawk that then goes like a little bit long at the back. Has quite extensive tattooing, all like covering half of his face in a motif that looks like the lines are all jagged and kind of break. So it's almost like there was a tattoo there that then was like shifted a little bit. And when he looks around the room and sort of grins, he's got short little tusks, where his bottom canines would be. They're capped in silver. And he has just this huge greatsword slung over his back. He's topless, like has no shirt on. The tattoos all continue in sort of Daichi would recognize as tribal motifs, but there's something wrong with them. They're not quite right. And Daichi, looking at him, you think he's like half fierce and half something else. You're not sure, but huge. Human maybe, but which would be kind of the most likely. But is just this big guy. And then he follows the woman in, sort of goes into the back corner, sort of in behind the table, but then facing out into the room. So his back is in the corner and just leans against the back wall, pulls out like a little metal stick and starts picking his teeth.
Wow.
Well, if anything goes downhill, I'll take Tiny. I say this out of the corner of my mouth, not looking up from my cards.
All right.
I just kind of nod at him and go, okay.
All right.
I say we hit the door if anything bad goes down, but that's just me.
Oyawe. It's been like an hour or so. You have finished a bunch of your research that you were engaging in. And the librarian, Brother Wilfred, comes up to you again and sort of just taps you on the shoulder and says, I was told that you may want to go outside.
Would I have any reason to suspect that somebody has like threatened him, or like dire urgency, like something's happening outside and we need to go check it out?
Give me an insight check.
Because that's not how he was acting earlier, and it's kind of alarming. Insight. Only because my wisdom's high. God, is that cocked? No. Another 11.
Okay. He doesn't, you don't notice anything wrong. He's a little bit different, maybe a little bit more trepidatious, but he's not giving off any, doesn't appear to be under duress or anything.
All right, well, I'll close my book and I'll go to put it away and I'll say, all right, well, thank you for letting me use the library. I've gotten as much as I had been able to. If there's anything you ever need, just let me know.
And he nods, I will.
And I will. You meant leave the temple, not leave the room, right?
Yeah, like outside the temple, yeah.
Right. Then I will go outside the temple and I'll make my leave.
Okay. So you make your way out, and you come up to the top of those broad steps, which kind of descend down into the market. Brother Ulfric is there, Sir Ulfric, the knight who you were talking with earlier, and he's standing again with 4 other similarly garbed knights of Tyr who had been out here earlier. They're all standing, kind of talking with one another and surveying the crowd. But when you come out, you can hear there's just this like swell of noise as you kind of approach the doors and come out onto the steps. And so you can see that the bazaar is like full of people, and there is a number of, common folk who have like a group of merchants sort of corralled on, like one corner of the square, and they're all like chanting some slogans which you can't quite hear, and like yelling angrily at these merchants. When you look, you can see that at least one of the merchants has like a couple of cuts and bruises, and is the merchant who was kind of involved in the altercation earlier in the day in the square. And as this is sort of, escalating, you can see a small contingent of militia guards enter the square from sort of the far side and start trying to make their way towards the crowd. Ulfric kind of just turns to you and says, "Hold a minute. Watch."
Yeah, I'll just stand there beside them and then do as he asked.
And he's like, "Follow us." And he kind of gestures to the other knights, and they form sort of a little phalanx and kind of descend the steps themselves, like to start, cutting their way across the square. And the crowd parts for them. They don't have to force their way through. The crowd just moves out of their way and, lets them go. So before the guards get there, the knights and yourself are able to reach, the altercation that's happening, right? And the knights kind of like interpose themselves to where the guards are coming. And the guards are just like struggling their way through the crowd. People are kind of resisting. You do see a couple of the guards pull out like short truncheons and start like whacking people like out of their way so that they're like, beating their way in through the crowd. And you can see Ulfric's jaw just tighten a little bit as he watches, but he continues just standing there sort of impassively until the guards, finally kind of make their way through. And at this point, like the guards are kind of red-faced. They're clearly angry. There's like small specks of blood from where they've, hit people. But they've also got like a few cuts and bruises themselves where, they've taken some whacks, from the crowd as they come in. And the leader steps up towards Ulfric and basically starts demanding that Ulfric, step aside and let them do their duty. And Ulfric just stands there and says, no. No more. Not one step further. And the guard kind of is visibly getting like angrier and angrier. And then you see a small boy kind of enter in around where those like group of merchants are kind of corralled and kind of disappear into the crowd a little bit.
The boy went into the circle of merchants, or
yeah.
Okay.
He kind of circled around in behind them, kind of like came out of the crowd. You kind of had a line of sight on him, and then he stepped in behind the merchants. Like there's a group of like 4 merchants there, sort of in like a ring of angry people. And then on one side of that is you and the knights, and then on the other side from you, kind of separating, are the guards.
Okay. I definitely think I'm a little more focused on the tension between the guard and the knights. So I might notice it, but I'm not gonna focus on it. I'm gonna focus more on Ulfric and the knights.
Okay. So you wait a few minutes, and then you sort of hear this like yelling of one of the merchants, like, "Hey, that's mine! Get that little rat!" sort of thing. And then a small face kind of like ducks in through your legs and sort of worms its way between you and the knights. And you look down, you see the little boy, and he's got like a large purse in his hand with like cut strings, right? Where he's like cut it off of the belt of one of these merchants. And he sort of just goes to dart in through your legs and like kind of in between the knights and to come out on the other side.
Now, just double checking because my brain isn't thinking quite properly. The Knights of Tyr are fighting for, like, the civilians are having issues with the merchants, and the knights are on the side of the civilians.
Yep.
Not on the side.
Yep.
But would I know that they would stop a little boy who's stealing from someone, even if there is issues? No matter who it is.
They might.
I think Oyawe doesn't want any issues between anybody, and it doesn't matter who it is. 2 wrongs don't make her right. So she's actually going to probably stop the boy before he gets too, or try to stop the boy before he gets too far to hopefully prevent any more
Okay.
issues.
Make it. Give me a dexterity check to see if you're quick enough to kind of grab a hold of him.
Probably not. I don't think your dexterity is very high. I've got +0. So let's see how this goes. Maybe I'll actually get like a good roll this time. Oh, yes, thank you. That's 18.
Okay. So like you kind of reach out and you grab a hold of his cloak, right? And sort of get a hold of him. And he's like yanked back a little bit and he goes, "Hey!" And then he just kind of yells something. He can, there's kind of a couple of knights there. He's kind of in behind them where you've grabbed him. And he just yells, "I wanted to give the pigs their payment." And you see him kind of like chuck the purse like underhand so it will sail through the knights. And it lands on the cobbles, in front of the guards. And it bursts open and spills out just, like 40 gold pieces that just like scatter across the cobblestones. And there, you can hear the merchant kind of yelling like, "That's mine," right? And the guard that's in the lead and kind of standing closest to you reaches down towards his sword and goes to pull it out. And Ulfric just says, "I said no." Very calmly, kind of flat. He takes one step forward and his fist launches out and impacts against the breastplate of the guard. And then you can see this like poof, like explosion of light, like radiant energy as he smites into the guard and sends him like flying backwards. And then chaos erupts, right? As the guards like draw their weapons, the knights kind of draw theirs and like form rank and step forward, and everyone like around you starts going nuts. The little boy is still kind of like squirming in your grasp, and then you just hear a voice say, "Psst, psst, down here."
Is that the boy?
Nope.
Whispering?
No, it's like coming from sort of just off the side and behind you a little bit.
Okay. I'm gonna glance around first and at least see if I can see what it is.
Yep.
Before I respond to it, because I wanted to say something to the boy, but I at least want to glance and see what's.
So
yeah, I'll just kneel to him and tell him to get somewhere safe, and then I'll turn the thing that's whispering.
yeah. So the grate, there's a grate, like a storm grate there, kind of lifted up a little bit. And there is a small, scrawny man kind of with his head poked out of the grate. He's got some kind of like fur coat on that you can see sort of just his upper shoulders. And he has this like wide brimmed, floppy fur hat that has little like rat tails kind of dangling down like a fringe around part of it. And he just says, "Get the boy here. Safe here."
I'm actually going to turn to the boy and say, "Do you know him?"
And the boy's kind of just squirming and looks and just says, "It's okay."
Okay, then I'm gonna let the boy go, but I am gonna ask the guy. Like, it's gonna be so weird to ask his name in the middle of a battle.
And it's also like, the boy will have to like twist his way through. At this point, Ulfric has sort of turned back towards you and says, "Take the boy and go. I'll meet up with you in a minute."
Okay. I'm gonna kind of point to where we're going. I'm assuming he can also see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He actually looks and sees and is gesturing for you to go.
Okay, yeah. Then I'll follow the boy or lead him there to the guy and make sure he can actually get through. Because 7-foot dragonborn, I should hope people are getting out of my way.
Yeah. So I mean, you like shoulder your way through, and get to, and it's like a storm grate. So the boy slides into it pretty easy. It looks like it would be too small for you, but the weird man in the hat, and you can see he's got kind of like yellowy eyes, and he smiles. His teeth are kind of crooked and snaggly and a little bit yellowed. The teeth in the front are like a little bit big, a little bit oversized. And he just says, "Oh, it's okay." And he like starts rummaging around in like a pocket or something and tosses you a key and points to a door nearby and says, just stick it in the middle. It'll work.
Okay.
And then he
I'm
kind of
just
like
gonna-
slams the grate down and scurries off.
All right. I'm gonna give it one last look around before I head for this door where I'm gonna stick it in the middle.
Yeah, it's like a metal door that's kind of like, you know, those like basement storm doors where they're like laying down sort of at an incline. It's like that, right? Sort of like those basement doors. And you approach it, it's just one. And there's a handle on the outside, but you don't see a lock.
As much as I love research, I think I am also quite gullible. So I'm just gonna flat out just do what he said and just stick the key in the middle.
Yep. So you go to insert the key and it slides in to the door and clicks open. And then when you pull on the handle, the door opens. And then you pull the key out and it's smooth.
Magic. Jeez. I'll go down in and close the door behind me then.
All right.
If
So
I
you,
can.
yep. So you go down, lower the door closed behind you, sort of descend some stairs down to the bottom. And then this man, along with the boy, kind of shepherds along and just says, there's some people down here who could use your help.
Yeah, of course. Anything I can do. First and foremost, gonna apologize to the boy. I didn't mean to yank or hurt you or anything. It's just I didn't want any more issues. I didn't want someone.
He just gives a big grin and goes, "My name's Amos," and there's a little bit of a shimmer around him, and then you can tell he's not a little boy. He's actually a halfling.
Oh.
But like, well, he was like, it was a magical disguise. Like it just shimmered away. He's like the right height and build, but he was magically disguised as a little boy. But he now appears to be like a middle-aged halfling, actually a little bit older than Wilby, or a bit older than Wilby. Wilby's quite young.
My lord. Okay, I was not expecting that. Magic. Dear God.
And
I know him before. It doesn't mean I know anything.
Yeah, and he's just like, it was all planned, but thanks for the assist.
Well, if I had, who knows what that guard would have done, because he definitely was going to pull that blade.
It's all right. Ulfric wouldn't have let anything happen to me.
Would I be able to connect the dots and know that, like, from the get-go, I was supposed to be a part of this and this was a plan? Because Wilfred freaking told me to leave the sticking library.
I think Oyawe might reasonably suspect that.
Egads, I've been used. Just kidding.
And the man in the hat just goes, "Come on, quickly, quickly."
Alright. I'll also ask him his name.
Oh, yeah, so he just says, name's Baum. Baum. B-A-L, like, you know, like, and he rummages around and, like, pulls out a little jar and, like, pops the lid off and, like, shows you some ointment. And he's like this. Baum.
Okay, I see now. Okay. Alright, I'll write that down.
And you can now see that
Last name,
his...
Bomb Bomb.
No. You can now see that his, like, coat's pretty long, comes down to just below his knees, kind of like, almost like a trench coat style. And it appears to be made out of rat furs.
You found the rat man.
From before.
All right, so back in the Riverside Inn. What are you guys doing?
Wilby, let's go outside for a little bit. I need to go take a piss.
This
Okay.
doesn't seem like the type of place that would have an indoor facility.
No.
Not likely.
Yes, I could use some pressure.
Okay. As we get outside, all right, I think it's maybe time to change into your gecko form.
Yep.
And we can go back inside.
So once I'm pretty sure nobody's around to see me, I'll turn into a gecko and try run in and ideally try climb up the table leg and get underneath the table.
Okay. So when you're
I'm
outside,
going to pick him up and carry him back inside first. So
Okay.
since we're outside when all this does.
all right. So when you're outside, waiting to see if anyone's like around, are you like ducking into any place, or are you just like kind of looking around and then doing it in the street?
Yeah, probably just slowly heading off in some direction, like I'm intentionally walking somewhere, but just waiting for a time when nobody's really around and looking.
Okay.
I'm going to just kind of follow with him.
Okay. All right. So you do that and then go back inside the inn and kind of scurry around, to get under the table. Go ahead and give me a stealth check with advantage.
With advantage.
Yeah.
Okay. Stealth, that is 18.
Okay. So you scurry up under, the table, kind of on the inside of one of the legs, and
Right.
you kind of come in sort of mid conversation, and you just hear, "The time is now, Ilsa. Can't wait any longer. That incompetent bastard on the throne is gonna ruin everything for us. Everyone already hates us. The cities are a tinderbox, just waiting for matches to be lit. If I didn't know better, I'd think that what happened in Menua is going to happen here any minute, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Breakwater followed. Then how far do the dominoes have to go before Surat falls? No thank you. We have to protect what is ours. That little shit should have never been on the throne. And weren't you, Ilsa, responsible for taking care of that little piece of the puzzle? Weren't you supposed to do that?" And you hear the woman's voice just say, "Now, Auric, you know as well as I do, none of us expected that incompetent little weasel to survive. He should have been long dead, should have drank himself into an early grave, if nothing else. Nevertheless, it is what we is. Thought we could manipulate him, but he's proven to be not only incompetent, but so stupid that we couldn't even manipulate him properly. He's hiring more and more mercenaries. I heard that the Lord Protector here is set to crack down on these dissidents any minute now, with mercenaries that she's hired to supplement the guard. It's all going to come down." And the third man just kind of breaks in. Look. We know what we got to do. I've already outlaid the gold. The man's on his way. The shit ain't going to wear the crown for long. We put the council in place, and the Blue Guard were sitting pretty. Agreed? All right, Andric. Agreed. All right. Agreed. The Grand Duke's got to die. And then the chair legs kind of push back, and the three figures sort of get up.
What was the second name? I didn't quite hear you.
Auric.
Oric. Okay.
And then the woman, you just hear her say, "Come on, Torval. Time to go home." "Yes, Ilsa." And there's like thump, thump, thump. And so everyone else can see sort of the three individuals talking and then kind of all stand up. And then this like, half giant figure basically follow in behind them, sort of surveying the room as they leave.
I'll wait until they leave and then run over and try to run up Zyrus's leg again.
This gecko like scurries up your leg.
I gotta jump a little bit.
While that's going on, I'm shoveling coins into my bag and just going, Wilby shouldn't have gone home. That poor boy couldn't hold his alcohol, and I've won everything tonight. Ha ha.
All right.
And then I noticed Cyrus jump.
I kind of tell Farnak, I think it's really time we probably need to head on back to the inn.
Should we wait a little bit longer so it doesn't look like we were here waiting for them to leave?
True.
Patrick gets up, slams down his other shot, and walks the lead.
All right, so Daichi, you sort of stroll out behind them in the street and just see them kind of walk out, and there is a large black carriage pulled up out in front that the three of them get into, and the large half-fierce individual sort of climbs up beside the driver on top, sort of looks around, makes eye contact with you, looks you kind of up and down, and then grins, but really it's more like just baring his teeth.
Dachi actually grins back at him. Gives him a little wink.
And he just kind of does like a and then the driver kind of like flicks the reins and the carriage pulls off.
Well, if Dachi's leaving, we should probably be leaving too. Don't want him getting himself into any trouble out in the streets with the amount he's making.
That's exactly what I was thinking myself.
I'll run up and sit on Zyrus's shoulder.
All right.
I kind of look over to the side. Okay.
All right. So, where are you guys heading back to?
Let's head back to the inn by way of the square and see if we can see if our Dragonborn is around.
We've been separated for, I don't know, what time frame are we coming? I'm following behind too. Gonna keep an eye out for any seedy people following us.
Okay. Give me a perception check.
15 on the dice, and I'm still getting used to this new D&D Beyond sheet, so give me a moment. All right, perception is +3, so another 18.
Yep. Same thing as Daichi saw. There's people who watch, but they don't seem to be watching you specifically.
Did they all get in the carriage, or was it just
They all get in the carriage.
Okay. So they didn't arrive in the carriage together, but they took them with them.
Yep.
I tell you, this bunch is not very careful.
Nope. Let's get back and find out what our little ears to the ground heard. So
All right. So
fast
you guys
travel back to the inn.
Yep. But you were going to go by way of the square, was what Zara suggested.
Yes.
Seems
Pass by the
reasonable.
temple.
Okay.
Yep.
So you get back, and as you're approaching the square, you can hear yelling. You see flickering light. You hear the clash
How-
of steel.
How long would it have taken us to walk to the square?
Like 20 minutes.
Okay, I would stay gecko. Just
Okay.
I like being in an animal form. So
So approaching the square, it is pretty obvious that something is afoot.
I reach in, I pull my flail,
Okay.
and I pull out my shield off my back.
Dachi reaches out, his Farnak pulls out his flail and goes, "Now hold on. We're not in the fight yet. Don't need to draw your weapon.
Well, I'd rather have these in my hand before the fight begins.
Where
I'm
I
going to
come from,
switch
Right.
out for my crossbow.
I'll keep my hand in the bag of holding my flail, heeding Dachi's warning, but I'm ready to pull it out like a sheath.
when Daichi's the one being cautious,
That's the point. It's like, okay, if he's... Yeah, I'm startled.
All right. So you guys enter the square, or approach so you can see the square, and it is obvious that there is what could only be described as a large-scale riot happening. As there's just like a mass of commoners in front of you. You can see like stands of, from like the fruit sellers and stuff, just like overturned and trampled. There's flames licking up from some of the nearby buildings. There's like smoke wafting into the air. And near the center of it all, you see the occasional like glint of firelight off of bared steel. You hear sort of like being yelled, Fortier, and every once in a while see like a flash of like thunderous light, and then like yells and sort of screams as, Farnak, you recognize sort of someone channeling holy power into their blow. And that's the bulk of what you see.
I'm going to side with the Teo Knights, if it comes to this. Do I see anyone hurt on the ground that needs healing?
Not in front of you. There is the square is packed. There is like groups and clumps of people. The main like altercation appears to be sort of over somewhere in the middle of the square away from you. So it's, a couple hundred feet away basically. And there's just like tons of people there. You're only catching like little flashes of stuff. There doesn't appear to be any conflict back where you are, just like commoners trashing stuff and rioting.
Okay.
I'm just going to suggest, Farnak, we manage to get out of this area real quick, because I do not want to get picked up by the authorities.
Dachi leans
Looks
over
like
to
the
Gecko.
authorities have their hands full. What was that about Gecko Wilby?
Yeah. He's gonna lean over to Gecko Wilby. He's gonna be like, "So, is this what you overheard, by chance?"
I kind of shake my head.
That's adorable.
Is what you heard just as important as this, or more so? We should probably avoid this and figure out what's going on with Gecko Wilby.
So we're going to skirt the crowd? That's the plan?
Well, you don't even really need to.
Anyway,
You don't. You can skirt around to the street that goes back to the inn.
doesn't
Sounds
feel
like-
right to not get involved against me.
That's a good point. Wilby, why don't you revert back and tell us what it is? Because if it's more important than this, We should probably know now.
Okay, things just kind of look chaotic around here, right?
Yep.
So I'll just get off Cyrus and change back, just in the middle.
Just looking at Riverwall on Cyrus's shoulder and make it weird.
That's going to be kind of pain. Well, yeah, I was about to say I can just let you ride around with me. So
Arnak still got that harness.
True. and then if we can find kind of a place to talk, I'll give them a rundown of what I overheard.
All right. So yeah, there's like an alley or something you could duck into.
Yeah.
An assassination, and the assassin's already been hired.
Sounds like it, yes.
They said tonight.
He said the man was on his way. I'm not sure time.
If there was ever a
The
good
Grand
time,
Duke would be in Surat.
Yes.
That's a good time.
if there was ever a good time to assassinate somebody, it would most definitely be during a riot.
well, of course, because then you will have somebody easy to pin it on.
They also said the whole city's a tinderbox. This may just be a symptom.
Yes, the Grand Duke is not here. The Grand Duke is in Surat. This is small pickings. This is not related, but still, people are getting injured and homes are being burned. Markets are being burned. Businesses are being destroyed.
And I do
Much
think we should find a highway too.
Yes, we don't know where she is, and we know she was with the people of Tyr. She could be involved in this. She could be injured. As much as we don't want to, at the very least, we need to try and calm some of these people. Get them to go home.
I think our best bet may be to kind of get off the street. Karnak, I understand the fact that you want to stop some of this, but I don't know if we can.
I can shoot somebody, but I can't convince them to not.
There's like hundreds of people in the square, right? It's like a major urban like square and full of people.
And it's just kind of breaking into full-scale riot.
Yeah. There appears to be something somewhat more organized, like over, like I said, about halfway across the square. But where you are and what you can really see more clearly around you is like disorganized rioting.
We need to get to the temple. That's the last place we left Oilway. And knowing her, she would be there for 8-9 hours. She could be there drooling on a book.
Oh, yes.
We do need
She
to
may
get
not
to the
even
temple,
know
and
this
it is on the
happening.
other side of that.
Now hold on. She would never drool on a book.
Oh, this is very true, yes.
But I agree.
Cyrus, if you want to stay out of this, maybe you could at least provide some rooftop support. Watch my back.
Of course, I'm not going to let my friends get in the middle of this without me, but I just think as a group, we probably need to stay out of this right now. We have no idea what could get us into this.
But we still need to get to Oilway. She's one of us.
That I completely agree with. We need to find her quickly and get every one of us out of this mess.
So you guys are on the west side of the square. Yes, the west side. You're in like this. Any of the streets that go to the inn would be kind of on the north side of the square. The temple's on the south, so it's not like all the way around the other side. It's the other corner.
So maybe we can skirt around some, kind of.
Yeah,
Stay out of the
just
the
not
main-
plow right through the middle of it.
And I mean, you can see, you can't necessarily see the bottom of the steps, like right out in the square. But remember, there's like, a fairly high set of steps that go up to kind of a platform, right? Like a landing that goes into the temple. Like the entrance isn't right at ground level. You've got to kind of go up. So you can see that top part, right? That landing area. And you can see there are some temple guards out on the front, and they appear to be like periodically some people kind of come up the steps and they like help them. But otherwise, like the rioters aren't attacking the temple or anything like that. It's actually pretty calm up near the entrance to the temple.
So do we wait, are we actually at the temple entrance now?
Nope. No.
No.
I've just said like you can see that from where you are.
Shield out, but weapon not drawn. I'm just going to enter the crowd, making a straight line for the stairs.
Right, at least not just going to follow right behind them.
Okay, so as you guys start to do that, I'm going to deploy, which I hadn't yet in the game, for the first time, one of our proposed variant rules as we bring in some additions of things from different game systems. And I'm going to bring in a GM intrusion. So I am going to, basically the way it works is I offer you advantage for a point of advantage you can use later on, similar to the icon dice. And you also get another point that you get to give to somebody else. So there's 2 points that get distributed. You can refuse the intrusion, but to do so you have to have some advantage stockpiled already that you can spend to refuse it. And I believe the only one who does is Oyawe, and she is not here. So I am offering this intrusion to Farnak. So Farnak, you can put down a point of advantage because you don't have any to spend, and you can give the other point to who you wish. I'll describe the intrusion briefly so you can decide who's most appropriate to give it to. But what you hear is, approaching from behind you, the lockstep of booted marching feet. And as you glance over your shoulder, you can see a squad of about 6 guards approaching the square from behind you.
Could I give it to Dachi?
All right. So you can both mark down you've got a point of advantage that you can use at some point. Either to give yourself advantage or to spend. And these carry over, so these points don't vanish at the end of the game if you don't use it. But I encourage you to spend them. Don't hoard them, or you might have to
Can we
change
accumulate them, or is it?
That's what I just said. You can accumulate them, but you should spend them. Don't try and stockpile 20.
I'm just going to use them. I'm going to put them in the Electrum slot because no one uses Electrum.
Sure. Oh yeah. On your D&D Beyond sheet. Okay. So when you glance over, there is 6 guards bearing down on the square from in behind you. Several of them have pikes out, and you can see one of them is touting a rifle, and several of them have pistols, and they all also have swords belted at their side as well.
So, does Dachi see this? And do they have their? Are they aiming weapons right now?
Well, they're approaching, and they're getting all of their weapons ready.
Getting the weapons ready. Okay.
So this is behind us. And I remember that Wilby mentioned that one of the topics was that the town guard had been bolstered with mercenaries.
Not quite. That she had hired mercenaries, not that the town guard had been not that mercenaries had been added to the guard.
Okay.
In addition,
these are
to
official
the guard.
Town guards.
These are official town guard. And the lead one just starts barking out, "In the name of the Lord Protector, stand aside and let us do our duty."
All right, would even be able to hear me over all this ruckus?
You can hear them.
I can hear them. Okay.
And they're getting closer. Chunk, 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 chunk,
And
chunk,
I'll yell out.
chunk, chunk.
Is part of your duty harming the citizens of this town?
And the sort of a couple of them, that have their pikes out. A couple of them sort of are unholstering pistols, and one of them still has the rifle. Sort of, he's more in the back. The person in the basically is taken point. You can see how it's now like a watch captain's badge, sort of where his cloak is pinned. So a silver badge, and he's got one hand kind of resting on the pistol that's belted, and another on his sword. And he just says, "I am not to be questioned by the likes of you. Now stand aside. This is official business." And he keeps approaching.
Turn around, shield up.
Yeah, that just gonna stand with Farnak, just kind of put his hand on his gun. He's gonna be like, "Y'all have your weapons out, so I'm gonna guess you're here to kill somebody. Now, who are you here to kill?"
Roll initiative.
Okay. That is my question. I'm gonna spend that point of advantage. Did not.
15.
Should Cyrus and I roll too?
Oh, yes.
Oh boy.
Sorry, Cyrus.
Daichi?
10.
Cyrus?
Hang on, I'm looking for my bonus. I can't
Will be?
remember.
16.
I had a 9.
Someday you will roll double digits. I believe in you.
Someday. Not tonight, apparently.
Okay. So... All right. So the captain who is leading the front just pops out his pistol and levels it directly at basically swiveling between Farnak and Daichi and just fires off 2 shots, one at each of you.
My AC is currently only 14.
Yep.
Uh-oh.
And that is a 18 to hit on both of you. I rolled the exact same on both of my dice.
Oh, yeah, that hits me.
Okay. And so that...
Am I allowed to interpose my shield before the roll, or do I have to do it before you have declared the attack?
For the defense,
Yeah, for my defensive fighting style.
it uses your reaction, so technically it can
Okay.
happen anytime. I don't know if it's supposed
I'll
to be
use my
before
reaction to
roll.
guard Dachi, if I can.
Okay. So, but in future, I would ask to, like, before I roll.
Okay, that's what I wasn't sure of.
Yeah. No, this time's fine. It's been a while since we've had to use it. All right. So basically, you put your shield over, which the bullet then ricochets off from in front of Daichi. But the one that hits you, you're going to suffer 9 points of piercing damage.
9.
9.
Oh, gosh.
I dodged, but it hurt my back.
Oh.
Oh, my lumbago!
And the captain basically just yells out, "Guards, take them down quickly." And Wilby, it is your turn.
I'm going to push my way in front of Farnak and Thunderwave.
All right.
Oh boy.
Constitution saving throw.
Yeah. DC 15.
Love druids.
And let me see on these cards. They all fail.
Excellent. So that's
Small but
7
mighty.
points of damage. And they're pushed 10 feet away.
Seven.
Yeah.
All right, so the main bulk of guards basically all get like thrown backwards, and you can see sort of blood leaking out of their ears and nostrils as they stand. The captain, takes the brunt of it. He gets shoved 10 feet back, but you can see him just kind of bear down with resolve. But the guards all are kind of, as they're like leveling their weapons at you, you can see sort of their hands like twitching a little bit, and they don't look terribly steady in their resolve. Farnak.
Okay, in the confusion by this, I'm going to just leap over Wilby and rush in for the guard captain. I'm assuming I can make it in that distance.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to, as I do this, I'm pulling the flail out, and first one's going to miss for sure, but the second one is going to be 21.
Okay. Yep, that hits.
Okay. And this one, just to show a little bit of muscle, I'm going to pump in a first level smite.
Okay.
So that's 3d8. Oh, wow. Lovely. We've got 19 damage to him.
All right. Okay. So as that impacts, right, and, the holy light kind of flares out, he kind of stumbles back with a snarl, although his arm kind of goes limp for a minute and his pistol falls out of his hand and, clatters against the cobbles, but he's like reaching for the sword at his waist, and his lips just twist in a snarl, and he says, "So, it's true. The temple joins the rats."
I'm with no temple.
I don't care. Religious swine. And it is the guards seeing this. They all sort of steel themselves up a little bit and fire off volleys of shots. And it's 18, 7 plus 4, and 11, 15, 17, 15, and then there's the two who have this, or wait, that's 1, 2, 3, right, okay. And a nat 1, so one of the pikemen sort of is like trying to get his bearings on Farnak and just gets tripped up over his own feet, rams the pike into the wall of the alleyway essentially. But the others, so one pike and two pistol shots, one pike, 2 pistol shots, 1 rifle shot, all into Farnak. All right, so the pike
You're definitely holy now.
does 7 points of piercing damage.
Okay.
The pistols each do 10. Or sorry, 9. Sorry, 9.
Sorry, one moment. My D&D Beyond's not working very well right now. So first it was 9, and then 7.
Well, so 2 9s, so 18 plus 7. I'll give you the total here. I'm just, yeah. So 18 plus 7, so that's 25. And then the rifle is another 10, so 35.
Okay.
Woo!
Luckily, I'm made of stuff.
Yeah, because that would have put me into the ground.
Yeah.
And then it is Daichi.
Daichi is going to kind of pop around, and he's going to take 4 shots because we're going to action surge, and he's going to take out the 4 people who had just hit Karnak. He's going to go 1 shot for each of them.
Nice. All right.
And so For the 3 gunmen, I'm going to spend a grit for each of those to be advantage, and they're all going to be sharpshooter. And then the pikeman is going to be another sharpshooter. That's 3 advantage, 1 regular roll. The regular roll is against the pikeman.
Okay.
So the first shot, which is the advantage 1, sharpshooter, is 19.
Okay, so you hit on anything 16 and above.
16 above. Okay. I'm just going to roll the damage out separately because
And
they're all for individual targets.
So unless you really want to, you don't need to roll damage.
Anyway, I wanted to, but that's 21 damage.
Okay.
Oh wait, we got 10, doesn't it?
Yeah, it
Oh
does.
my gosh.
They only have 4 hit points left each.
The second shot also hits, so that's another 1 death.
Yep.
This is the third advantage, which is the natural 20.
All right.
I'm going to say that's the rifleman, and he gets between the eyes.
All right.
The pikeman might survive. That's a 14.
So the 14 misses. So
I
yeah.
got one.
So on 3 of them, you just do the like. I'm thinking it's like River from Firefly, where she like blind shoots around the corner. It's just like bang, 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 and there's just like 3 heads that turn to melons that just explode everywhere as the bullets go right through. And then the fourth one goes, to fire, but the pikeman had already dropped his pike and soiled himself and fallen to his knees. And so then the bullet went to where he would have been, but just like whistled over and like smacked into the wall. And you see him make a gesture and like start praying. Zyrus.
She looks over at the last pikeman who had missed.
So, all right, let me make sure that all right.
Oh, I'll just-
so the only person that's still up is the captain and one of the pikemen, right?
Right.
I'm going to go for the captain. Oh, I like that one. 24.
All right. That
And
definitely hits.
since Farnak is close enough, that means it's going to be a sneak attack also.
Yes, absolutely.
Rats. All right. 12, 17, 19 points of damage.
Okay. And Daichi, do you want to finish what you were saying?
Oh, the last pikeman Dachi's just going to kind of glare at after doing this.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And so Zyrus's bolt, like basically as the guard captain is like opening his mouth to like yell something, the bolt just like slams in, through his teeth and then into the back of his throat. And he's just like gurgles blood everywhere and falls over. From nearby, one of the storm grates you hear this like shifting and then like a thudding sound, and a swarm of rats pours out of the storm drain, mounds over the remaining like guardsmen, surges over it, and then kind of circles back around towards the storm drain. And when you look where he was, is just like picked clean bones. It was just like demolished by this like swarm of rats that poured over it. And then they go back down in through the storm drain, except for one rat, which turns around and kind of twitches its whiskers at you a little bit. And you're pretty sure you see its little paw kind of gesture to you to follow it, and then it disappears down the storm drain.
I love rats. They're so cute.
I think we should follow the rat, yes?
Dachi's going to immediately go to where the gunmen are and start looting for bullets.
Okay.
I'm going to zip through real quick and check for any coin purses or anything.
Okay, so so how quickly are you doing this?
Dachi's going for the obvious places of where you would keep your extra bullets and just taking any bullet pouches that he finds.
And I'm going to do the same. I'm just going to look for the obvious places that would have coin purses.
Okay.
I'm going to wipe a little bit of blood off my earlobe where Cyrus's arrow just skimmed it a little bit as it passed over his shoulder, and make for the sewer to kind of guard it with the shield up.
I'm going to turn around and wave at Farnak as he walks towards the sewer. You're welcome.
All right. So, Daichi, you find a total of 20 bullets, like scattered among like 3 or 4 different ammo bags. And Zyrus, you managed to pull a couple of coin pouches. That is, you're filtering through. You pull off like 3 coin pouches. You get a total of 30 copper pieces, kind of distributed among them. 20 silver. There is 2 gold pieces. And a wedding ring.
Okay. Sounds good. All right.
The wedding ring's probably worth like a gold piece.
We're gonna follow the rat.
Yeah, I'm already following the rat, and I also give Farnak a little balm of the summer court, so that's 10 HP.
Thank you, Willie.
All right.
Dutch is gonna walk over to where the rifleman was, pick up his gun, snatch it, and then walk over to the grate.
Nice.
All right. So yeah, you sling that over your shoulder. You get over to the grate, and then peering out from it is a pudgy face of a woman. She's got sort of yellowy eyes. She's got a floppy hat on that appears to be made out of rat skins, but with like little fringes of rat tails hanging down from it. And she's wearing a coat made of rat skin. And,
a rat mage.
She just goes, "Oh, yes, we were told to look out for you, friends of Oyawe's."
Oh, yes. Hello. I am Wilby.
Huh.
Nice to meet you. I like your hat. That's nice.
Oh, thank you. And she blushes a little bit. She rummages around and pulls out a key, which she hands over and says, "I'm afraid that I don't think you'll fit through the grate, the storm grate, but there's a door over there. Use the key. It'll open. Trust me."
Okay, thank you very much. I'll take the key and head to the door.
And this one does
after
have
Willie
like
as a guard.
it does have like a place for a key.
Ah, okay.
But you look at it and you slide it in. There's like a little bit of resistance, like when you put a key into a lock that doesn't really fit into. But then when you jiggle it around, it seems to like all of a sudden fit perfectly. And then you click it open, and the door opens.
We go this way, yes?
And you just hear a, "Yep, down here."
Okay.
Now we're following rats into a sewer.
They know our way. We're good.
Lead the way. And
And we go.
I'll usher everyone else in and bring up the rear.
All right, so Oyawe, back to you, and rewinding in time a little bit. You're led by the halfling Amos and the skinny fellow dressed in the rat skins, sort of through a network of tunnels until you get to a door, which he kind of knocks like a bit of a code on. A slot opens, and another sort of person looks through. There's some sort of exchange. It sounds a lot like chittering back and forth, and then it closes and the door opens. And you're let into a room where there are cots kind of all lined up, and there is about 50 people here in various states of like injury, and they are being tended to by 4 individuals wearing the same sort of garb as this man who has led you in here. And Amos just speaks up and goes, "Aye, the guild here, they're working with the knights, offering what aid they can, and we thought you, being the clerical sort, might be able to help out these individuals a mite more, do good for the cause, like."
Yeah, absolutely. How big is the room that we're in?
It's probably like 30 by 30 or so.
Okay, 'cause I know I've got. It's here somewhere. And is that what it was? 'Cause I have another one. I've got masking and word.
Oh, that too.
I've got masking. I know what I'm doing. um. Oh, up to 6 creatures, and then prayer of healing is also up to 6 creatures. Oh, the prayer of healing does way more. Okay.
Oh, prayer healing is also second.
Yeah, I'll probably use it. How bad do people?
Yeah,
Like
so we're not talking a lot, right? And this is more like kind of narrative purposes than having to really worry about exactly what your spells do. But basically, if you sacrificed a few spell slots into your healing and like took around the room and caring for people, you would be able to help the majority of people in the room pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean, but if I can use both of my mass spells and
Yeah.
whatever else I need, I will work on healing everyone. I don't care about wasting spell slots for that. I will get rid of them all if I have to.
Yeah, no. I mean, you've got stuff that heals like 6 people at a time. There's probably like 24 people here in the room, and they probably all need like a little bit of healing each. These are like commoners, so they've got like 5 hit points or something.
Okay, so I don't even need to like
Yeah.
go high on myself.
No, like we're talking like they get hit in the face by a guard and they took like 2 points of damage, right? So for them, that's a lot.
True. Yeah, I will absolutely help heal them. Did Amos say? Because I couldn't actually quite hear you. He said that the people in the rat outfits were there helping. Did he say specifically like what group they were or a name? I just didn't hear that.
He just said the guild. Didn't say anything past that. He just said the guild.
I would like to ask him, like, while I'm healing, like, what guild is that?
And he just chuckles and he goes, "Oh, sorry, you're not from around here, are you? This is the Rat Catchers Guild."
What was that, sorry?
The Rat Catchers Guild.
Rat Catchers Guild. Okay. Then I will do what I can to heal everybody.
And so as you're like moving around, you can see there are like rats everywhere. Like you kind of have to shuffle your feet as you walk to avoid stepping on them. And like rats are periodically like up on the people being cared for. They're not causing them any harm. They're not biting them or anything. In fact, some of them appear to be like going to where there is wounds and sort of like licking a little bit and offering some aid. You do notice, so the rat catchers, so the one who accompanied you, the man, and the other 4 that are in the room, although he goes over to a woman who's a little bit larger, kind of talks to her a little bit, and then she leaves the room. He periodically like reaches into his pockets, kind of like roots around a little bit, pulls out a sealed clay jar, which he opens, and he pulls out a small pink hairless baby rat, which he then feeds to people. And they like really kind of have to be convinced, but he like appears to be talking to them. And then they like eat it, and you can see like sort of health and vitality return to them.
I just got really heartbroken. Like, me personally. That's adorable.
And he kind of like looks around, and then he kind of finishes that, puts it in. He reaches around, pulls out another jar, which he like opens. It's also sealed, and pulls out like a very similar looking small pink baby rat, which he eats. But he kind of just like munches on them, kind of casually, and then like wanders by, and he like kind of nods and looks and sees what you're doing. He's like, good healing magic there.
Thank you. It's
Them saints are good for something. Not as good as the rat, but yeah, they're okay.
Yeah, you'll explain your methods someday. I think she's not disgusted. She's more confused because she's wondering how they can just feed baby rats to people and the other rats continue to work with them at the same time. It's like, why are you working with them when they're feeding their young to other people? I'm so confused. Like, she's thinking that.
And he's standing there talking, and there's like a rat on his shoulder, just like kind of looking at you when they talk. And he like finishes munching on one of these like, baby rats. And then he just holds the jar over and he goes, Pinky?
I'm all good, thanks. I had some soup earlier.
Oh,
But
Pinky's delicacy.
yeah, I'll try it.
Important to share with friends.
Okay. Oh yeah, we will be the dragonborn guinea pig, and she's probably.
It's like pickled. It's kind of vinegary. It's actually pretty good.
It's going to be terrifying to the rats, though. It's just like, how?
Yeah, quite frankly.
Rats will eat their babies.
The rat on his shoulder is kind of just like looking on. Does whiskers twitch?
I'm heartbroken right now.
And then he goes, oh, almost forgot. And he like kind of seals the jar and tucks it, reaches into a pocket again. You can see when he reaches into his pocket, he disappears up to like the elbow as he like roots around in the pocket. And then he pulls out a bottle of like wine, uncorks it, takes a drink, takes a few gulps, and he goes, healing and riots are thirsty work, and pinkies are salty. Good to chase.
I'm assuming he's offering.
Yeah, and he's holding it. Yeah, he's holding it out to you.
Take a swig.
Best the dragonborn can outlives.
Yeah, it's gonna get messy.
You shove it in, tilt it back. Take a drink, and then he takes it, recorks it, tucks it back in. He reaches out and pulls the other jar and goes, healing pinkies, eating pinkies. So he like kind of tucks both jars back in. One in one pocket, one in the other.
Okay, so I'm assuming he doesn't get confused because he makes sure to put them in the correct pocket every time.
Seems to.
Okay.
And like the rat that's on his shoulder just like climbs up on top of his hat, then sits there looking at you. He reaches up, kind of pets it. He's like, Brownie likes you.
She's gonna be super happy because a rat likes her.
And then there is like a knock at the door, and he goes, friends. And he goes back over and like looks through, and then opens the door. The woman, a female rat catcher who had exited earlier, enters, and behind her are Farnak, Daichi, Wilby, and Xyrus. Farnak has a fine mist of blood droplets all over his face.
And now that we're safe, I'm going to cast just a first level Cure Wounds on myself, and then Wolverine from Logan style just watches bullets kind of pop.
And so you see there's 3 other individuals sort of similarly garbed as the woman who led you down, who had quite cheerfully told you that her name was Vera. And then man comes over who is standing by Oyawe and just goes, friends, yes. I am Bomb, local chief of Ratcatchers Guild.
Bomb?
Yes. And he reaches around and pulls out a jar, unscrews it, shows you a cream, and he's like a bomb.
Oh.
I'm familiar with them.
And he kind of reseals it and puts it back in. He looks at Farnak and goes, neat trick with the hands.
Comes in handy, keeps me out of a pinch. I can take a lot more hits than the people around me, and I use that to my advantage.
I like this. And he reaches around, pulls out a jar, unseals it, pulls out a little baby pink pickled rat. Eat.
When in Sorel.
And he hands it to you. And when you eat it, it tastes kind of vinegary, but it's got sort of this healing, to it. And if you need any,
oh yeah,
you heal another 6 points.
Hey, I'm still not at max, but it's helpful.
And he just kind of shakes the jar and goes, "Have your fill."
Okay.
You basically eat another few and heal up to full.
Okay.
So I'm just looking around at this, and this room's just covered with rats, right?
Everywhere. Yep, crawling all over people.
Yeah, I'm just kind of taking this all in. This is quite the place you have here, yes?
Yes. There's a loud thump from somewhere up above, almost like a explosion up above on the street somewhere. And you actually see 2 of the other rat catchers that you haven't talked to just immediately fall apart as a pile of rats that swarm out and scurry all over the room. And Bomb just goes, the young.
As soon as Dachi sees that, he's immediately having flashbacks of his one visit to the north.
I was there, and
Yeah.
so was Wilby.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the former rats that attacked him, they kind of instinctually just kind of pats his gun a little bit. It's like, I bet that guy was one of them.
I'm just going to walk up behind Douchy and kind of pat him on the back and say, at least it's not spiders.
You say that a swarm of rats like that crawl all over you. Much rather have spiders.
And Bomb just says, Prisa, aunties, come on, assemble. And sort of a bunch of the rats kind of just mound back up together and sort of merge and kind of slowly transform back into a person.
I kind of look at Mom and, that is quite impressive.
We tend the rat, and the rat's power comes back to us.
Fruit of the rat.
Understood. Very, very useful work.
The rat is all the colony, all that matters. Individual, not important. The colony, important.
That makes sense, yes.
And he looks Daichi, and because you had sort of put your hand on your gun a little bit, and he goes, oh yes, pistols. You like pistols?
I do, yeah.
And he's reaching around in his pockets. You see his arm just disappear up to the elbow, kind of roots around. And then he pulls out a small pistol and puts it on a table in front of you. and it's like a small, like 2-shot kind of derringer, very fine craftsmanship, and it is a design you recognize.
Dachi is immediately beside it, is just staring at it for a little bit.
You saw this design in your book from the gunsmith, but it was beyond you to do. Like, it's like you managed to create pretty good firearms. You took to it pretty naturally, but you know, although this is small, it's that much harder to make because it's like super fine detail work. You didn't really have the right equipment and just didn't have the skill to do it.
Who'd you get this from?
Oh, a friend. We helped, gave it to us. Her name, I believe, was Salia.
Where is she right now?
She had been in Surat, but she went to Menua.
She's still there?
I believe so. She went to help there with the new, what do they call it? Government?
And she kind of just looks at the others. Still odd. Can you show me a way to get out of the city around the ride upstairs?
Of course.
All right. Nash will literally go with him if he points away.
Oh, we have to take you.
Are you leaving us?
For a little while.
You have your guild dagger with you.
Of course. Dachi pulls that out.
You're always a member.
I'll be back. There's something that I promised to take care of. Where I'm from. You gotta take care of it.
Oh, yes. Promises are important. Would you like company?
No, this one is it's a bit more personal.
Okay.
All right. So, and as you're sort of having that discussion, tall, familiar-looking knight steps into the room. His armor clearly sort of the worse for wear at the moment. Kind of stumbles in, holding at his side a little bit, but then like holds up his hand as Bomb sort of comes to him. And he just says, "Just need to catch my breath. Good to see you're here. It's Ulfric. See you've met our friends, Sister Oyawe."
Yes, they're quite interesting. I like them.
They're helping us. The temple and the guild haven't always seen eye to eye on a number of things when it comes to doctrine and faith. And you see like Bomb just kind of yawn and like munch on a rat and just shake his head and saints, gods, blah, 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 nah, 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 nah. And Ulfric kind of just chuckles and goes, I know. Nevertheless, we both have a deep concern for the people that we help and protect. And the guild has been invaluable in allowing our people to move, around the city unseen, to shelter beneath the streets, and to move people in and out of the city quietly and without being observed. Nevertheless, as you have seen, we're a little thin when it comes to people with capabilities such as yourself, Oyawe. We could use your help. This place is ready to go, but it's going to be a fight. We could use all of your help. And he sort of, spreads his arms. But I know that you have business further south.
I would come, but there's something I need to find that I can only get in Surat.
I understand. Believe it or not, we maybe know a little bit about what you seek to do, not specifics, but there are those among our order who can commune with our saints, and we were told to render what aid we could. So whatever you're doing, I know that it is important.
I need an alchemist. I need one of not quite sound mind, willing to do odd things.
I think there's more to it than that. Maybe more than even what you suspect. Dark clouds are coming. Storms on the horizon.
Is that for me or is that for the world?
Well, at least for here. I don't know about the world, but it's more than just you.
Hopefully it holds off and gives me the time to do what I need to do so I can be some more assistance than I am in this current old man that I am. Got my own demons coming after me. Are you saying I'm walking into more demons?
I don't know what you're walking into. All I know is trouble's on the way. We all have to do what we can.
That seems to be the theme of the last year for me. Can't be that much different. At least I have some of my friends with me. Unless Wilby, Cyrus, are you planning on going on any side mission?
I need to get to Surat. I have some things I need to look into concerning the Shadow Hand.
Daichi does not want company. And Eliway, if she stays here, she'll be in company. I will go with you.
I appreciate it. I'm sorry I can't give you all the information. Goes over, gives Oyawe a hug. Walks over to Dachi, puts a hand on his shoulder and goes, "It was good to have a son again."
I'm just going to kind of walk over and stick out my hand at Dachi, say, "We'll meet again."
Sure hope so. Make sure that and he takes the hand and he's like, make sure that you misfire that gun. Just don't try and mess with it. I'll fix it when I come back.
So be it.
All right. And Ulfric looks at Oyawe. Will you stay?
Are you guys okay with me staying?
You You need to help where you can, yes?
You'll be able to find us. We're not that hard to find. I believe you can search for our guild daggers wherever you are as well, as much as I can find you if I need to. So if you make it to Surat, just search for us. We're quite a motley crew as it is, even with a few members gone.
Follow the trail of trouble. Got it.
Exactly.
Oh, yes, we are quite good at that.
Well, then before you leave, yes, I'll stay on. Before you guys leave, I need to give you all the information I got from the library, and if possible, I would like to take whatever time I need to write down on paper the name of who the seal belongs to, and all the stuff I learned about the circle, the adamantine circle, and a little bit about the map and stuff. So.
Will be. You should probably fill in Sorel on what we discovered at the.
Oh, yes, yes. That was most interesting, and I'll tell him all the.
Right. He seems like concerned and troubled, and basically expresses like this certainly throws some new wrinkles into the equation.
Have you heard the name Blueguard before?
I haven't.
The members' names Ilsa, Andrik, Auric, and Torvald, a half-giant beast of a man, were the ones we followed. Left in a black carriage. Perhaps they are going to Surat as it is. Maybe we'll run into them there.
Perhaps, I don't know. I mean, the first three you mentioned are all merchant lords in the city. Torvald's Ilsa's bodyguard. Hard to miss. Well,
you have the news. We'll do what we can when we get there. I don't know how to find an assassin. Perhaps Cyrus will be able to help with that.
I think I might be able to help out with a little bit of that.
Ulfric kind of looks you up and down and just says, he looks like the type.
That's why we bring him with us. Very handy.
Now, I thank you for your assistance, but we have much work to do, and I suspect you will want to be on your way. I've been led to believe that you've had some hand in the events above earlier. We thank you, although it is never easy to take the life of the guards. Some are merely pawns in this racket that has been built by the merchant nobility over the last several centuries. But we all do what we must. Our friends here among the guilds can get you out of the city unseen, if you so desire.
One moment. And Barnak's going to go find a spot to strip down and switch into his more well-known armor. With some assistance.
It's going to take 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, so like 15, 20 minutes. It's like 5 to get out of the old stuff and about 10 to put the new on at least. So he just looks over. When you put on the new gear, Ulfric looks at you and his eyes widen a little bit. And he's like kind of just
this armor.
He's just staring at you. Where did you come by that?
The guardian of a crystal tower. Long dead, but life sustained by magical means.
He walks over and taps on it. This armor is the armor of the Knight of Stars. The Knight of Stars was the champion bodyguard of the last Grand Duke.
Seems a bit far from Surat from where I found it. The story, as I understand it, is he made his way to the Crystal Tower, defeated the old guard of the tower, and sacrificed himself to take its place. When we defeated him as he was, we lost one of our own left behind to guard the tower in his place.
The last Grand Duke, the High King, Oberon, he died, as you know, a decade ago. His champion disappeared and died sometime before that.
So should I be careful wearing this around the city?
I recognized it.
Worrying. Rather expensive to replace, and I've become quite attached to it.
It is fine armor. Indeed. Although, and he kind of reaches out, sort of adjusts it a little bit, it's in need of reconsecration.
There's something you can do.
I can. If you wish. Although it is consecrated, at least originally, to Saint Tyr.
I do not know who or what is giving me the powers that I have that you also possess. I don't serve any deity. I know my powers appeared only at a moment of extreme anger and rage for the wrongdoings that had been done to me. I made vows of vengeance to the stars, and something answered, but nothing has spoken to me directly.
Saints sometimes work in mysterious ways, and of course, like I said, you had your power well before you came across this armor. I'm just merely telling you who it was originally consecrated to. And of course, if I were to reconsecrate it, it would be consecrated in Tyr's name. If you stand for justice, if you stand to protect those who can't protect themselves, if you seek to right wrong, and vengeance is a part of that too, then Tyr would be pleased.
Oh, I guess I'm no longer a free agent of the divines. Consecrate away, my friend.
All right, so, he would sort of take you aside, separate from everybody else, to perform a ritual. It doesn't take that long, probably about an hour or so. Would involve a great deal of prayer, anointment with holy oil, more prayer, a lot of chanting, candle burning, incense being waved around, various things. But at the end, a faint shimmer and glow would wash over the armor. And for mechanical purposes, as it is reconsecrated, it is now +1 plate mail of protection. Or, sorry, of resistance, rather. And it is resistant to cold damage.
Barnack breaks his. Barnack, just when he hears that, just as serious as the moment has been, I just start kind of chuckling to myself, belly laughing. Oh, this would have come in handy. What is it now? Three wolves ago.
Yeah.
I have a
Alright.
long-standing bad history with ice and cold.
All right. And so, assuming everyone will sort of take their leave and part, unless anyone has anything else that they want to say.
Daichi is going to crouch in front of Wilby, kind of ruffle his hair a little bit. It's like, when I come back, I want you to show me some of that nature magic of yours.
Oh,
I myself a little bit more. I'm missing the wildlife.
oh, yes, I would be most happy to. It's a promise.
Kind of holds up, clasp, his arm.
I'd just go up and hug him.
It's like, and then hugs him.
I would like to also, with all the information that I found in the library about Surratt and the Adamantine Circle and the Tower and the Mage, also give the original letter that has the seal on it to giving it. Yeah, he's got it back. Yeah, I'll give it to Farnak because he's got it back at holding. Don't lose this. This is all the information I found. You won't have me around to call it off the top of my head. And that includes like the name of the maid and everything, which I can send.
Yeah.
I've got it written down.
Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure I included the original like letter with the seal on it as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna look at alchemist. No, that's something for another day. I need an alchemist, not a mad alchemist.
That's also why I read some alchemy books in the also healing potions, but I'll take the time to learn what I can. So.
Thank you. We'll put good use to this.
Hope so.
All right. Anything else? Okay. And so with that, eventually you will part ways as you're able to recover your gear and things like that with the aid of the guild and exit the city. Daichi being headed to Manua, Oyawe to remain with the guild and the Knights of Tyr, and everyone else heading to Surratt. And that will complete this episode. Everyone, advance a level.
Oh, yeah.
Woohoo!
I forgot we could do that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I did too.
it's been a while. So yes, everyone advance a level, and unfortunately, this is a goodbye, but not forever, for Kyle and Rachel, as they exit. But we will hopefully have some exciting new people joining us, and we will be back. We'll be back shortly. Not as long as a break this time, we promise.
Yes.
And so thank you, everybody, and good night.
Good night, y'all.
I-
Yeah.